Hi, I'm Pam Borkowski-Valentine, and I work in the Office of Institutional Research at Swarthmore College. In this video, I'm going to use the National Student Clearinghouse Individual Detail Return File to identify enrollment information for prospective students who were admitted to your institution but who did not enroll. I've created a sample file that looks like what you will see when you open your individual return file in SPSS. For this example, I'm going to use the sample files for those who were admitted in the fall 2012 and in the fall 2013 term. And of course, you can do this for 1 year or multiple years. The first thing that we want to do is merge our files together. In order to merge case-wise, we need to make sure that we have the variables the same with type and name. Now, since this came directly from our Clearinghouse file, all the names should be the same as long as you didn't change them. So we don't have to worry about the name. However, I know I've spent quite a lot of time looking through long files to make sure that I have the exact same width and type when I'm trying to merge files. So instead of having to go through things manually, we're actually just going to run some syntax that standardizes all of these variable width and type. So as you can see in this 2012 example, our college name is 80, and if we look at 2013, our college name is 50. So things like that would definitely be a problem. So let's first run it for fall 2012. And as you can see, that changed it to 100. And now let's go run the same syntax for fall 13. Okay. And so now our variable width and types are standardized, and we can go ahead and merge these two files together. And great, we have no unpaired variables. So we'll go ahead and merge, and now we have our merged file, which I will save as merged file. The next thing I want to do is just change the request to return field variable to ID. I'm doing that just because we generally use ID, so the syntax uses ID, for that variable. But this also allows you to merge in other institutional data that you may have on the applicants for analysis if your project dictates. The next thing I want to do is change the dates to standard dates. And I'm really doing this just because it's so much easier to read when you're spot checking before you unduplicate your file, especially for more complicated identifying of duplicate and primary cases. And we actually did already change the search date and the enrollment begin, end, and graduation date into string variables in the alter type syntax. So we can actually just go ahead and run our date and time wizard syntax. Because there are a lot of cells that are missing data, especially for the no record found, aren't going to have enrollment begin and end dates, and most people aren't going to have graduation records, you are going to get a lot of error messages when you run this syntax. But don't worry, these particular errors are just saying that there wasn't anything in certain cells. So as you can see, for the enrollment begin date and end date, they're now in a format that we can read, and we see September 4th, 2012, January 28th, 2013. Okay. The next thing that we want to do, because in this example I am doing trend information, I want to make sure I have the admit year for everybody. Now I'm basing this substring on the search date admit year because I did my search date in the fall term that they were admitted. If you picked a different search date for some reason, just adjust the syntax accordingly. And so now we have our admit years, 2012 and 2013. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is identify our duplicate cases. Now, for this project, we just want to look at the first place a student enrolled, so this really is a very simple unduplication based just on the first record found. However, if your project dictates, you could first delete cases where the person has only enrolled for X number of days, or you could limit your results to only that fall term or only the first year after the admit term. I'm not going to go over those now, but I will review those steps in a separate video. Since we are selecting the first record, you may end up seeing a few records for people who deferred a year but who did ultimately end up enrolling at your institution. So we're first just going to identify the duplicate cases, and let's take a look. I'm not too surprised with those numbers since we are looking at this for fall 2012 and fall 13. We would expect that the 2012s have multiple semesters. And this information was run at the very end of fall 13, so we're not going to see any dates beyond that. So for example, we are seeing this person having enrollment for fall 2012 and for spring 13. And let me just move our primary case up. And we can see that we are picking the first record found. And I just want to quickly take a look at these cases for the duplicates for the fall 13. As you can see, this person started late August, went into early October, and then started at school B at the beginning of September and actually went until the end of December. So there could be a number of different reasons for this, and again, based on this particular project, we're just going to go ahead and take the primary case, but this may be one example where if your project dictates, you could end up deleting a particular case. For the other duplication, we can just see that there's a slight difference in the school name, although the terms are the same. So SPSS is just picking the first one. So after doing some spot checks, we're good to unduplicate. And so here's our new file that I'm going to save as merged file unduplicated. Now I'm just going to run some custom tables. If you don't have custom tables, you can recreate the same information in other ways. This first one, I'm just doing the school by the admit year, and as you can see here, we did include the no record found in this particular table, but of course you can just select that out if you prefer. I'm also going to run the same information by those who went to a public or private school, and here I am removing those who had no record found and just including those with a record found. When we initially ran this report, we were asked to see if the recession had an impact on those choosing to go to a public or private school, which is where these custom tables came from. You could definitely make changes in Excel, but I think it's just as easy to run these tables 3 ways. So I ran them numbers only, numbers and percentages only. So it's just so much easier to grab this and make your chart. And I did the same thing for 2-year versus 4-year. And of course, you can merge in any other info that you might want to analyze, like this as well. Okay, we've now finished unduplicating our file based on the first record found, and we've produced some charts. So that's the end of this video, and thanks for listening.